Hello everyone, it's AG, this time in a pumpkin suit. I hope you are enjoying the visuals that are right now on your screen. Oh my gosh, I had the idea of, dressing up for most of the Fortnight Frights videos that will be coming up before Fortnight Frights, during Fortnight Frights, not after, but definitely during. Anyway, yeah, don't quote me on doing it in every video, but yeah. Anyway, today I am here to talk about wholesome books which you can read during Fortnight Frights. You don't have to scare yourself senseless during this readathon. It's all about having a good time, feeling those spooky Halloweeny feels. And that's really it, basically. So when it comes to finding, spooky, macabre type literature that isn't too scary, there are certain areas you can search to find these. One very straightforward way is to look at the kids section, more specifically middle grade, because seeing the target audience, it isn't going to be all that scary, all that gory. Then a genre that I would highly recommend is dark fantasy. This specific genre doesn't necessarily seek to scare you, rather it tries to explore darker themes using fantastical elements. I should, however, note that there are pieces of dark fantasy that are just full-blown horrors, so please, if you do scare easily, make sure to double-check whatever book you're picking up. Anyway, let's get into some more specific recommendations. I would like to note that I have created a webpage which essentially is a compendium of books that you could read for the readathon, and there is one specific section that contains literature that isn't that scary. So you can also check that one out. I will leave a link in the description box below. Okay, starting with dark fantasy, the first one is Ormeshadow, and this was written by Priya Sharma. It's a dark coming-of-age story about Gideon Bellman. After an incident at his father's work, he has to move with his family to the Ormeshadow farm to live together with his uncle's family. The history of this land is heavily intertwined with the Bellman's family history, and it is said that deep down below sleeps a dragon that dreams of resentment, jealousy, estrangement, and death. I personally loved this novella and the way in which it sat at the border of fantasy with its mostly metaphoric use of dragons. Seeing that this is a coming-of-age story, it is incredibly character-driven, and I really enjoyed learning about the dynamics between all of the different characters. Their relationships are so intricate, and it's clear that so much thought went into all of these characters. I read this several months ago and it is still one of my favorite stories of the year. Then I have Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro and Caroline Funke. You might already know about this story because the movie is very well known. Anyway, it is set 5 years after the Spanish Civil War, during the summer of 1944, and it centers around a girl named Ophelia. Her stepfather is hunting down Spanish maquis. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, he's doing that whilst Ophelia's mother is increasingly growing ill whilst pregnant. Moving to a secluded place in the woods, Ophelia meets strange and magical creatures who eventually lead her through the trials of an old labyrinth garden. I haven't read this one yet, but I heard that if you really enjoy the movie, that you'll enjoy this book as well. Then moving on to middle grade, I have Paola, Santiago, and The River of Tears, and this was written by Taylor Kai Mejia. The main character, Paola, is 12 years old and absolutely obsessed with space. Ever since one of their schoolmates drowned in the river Gila, she and her two best friends have been told to stay away from it. However, Paola's mother has been warning her about the river for a far longer time. This is because of La Llorona, a wailing ghost woman who wanders the banks of the Gila to drag young people into its murky depths. One day, however, Paola doesn't heed her mother's warnings and she decides to set up her telescope at night close to the river. But when she sees a shadowy figure in the reeds and her friend Emma doesn't turn up, she knows she will have to enter the world of her nightmares, which include unnatural mist, mind-bending monsters, and relentless spirits in order to save her friend. Moving on, I have Spirit Hunters by Ellen O. This is actually a series about a 7th grader called Harper Rain. Harper doesn't trust her home the moment she steps inside. Rumors in the town go around saying that Rain's house is haunted, but she doesn't believe that until she finds that her little brother Michael is acting quite strangely. And this marks the start of Rain having to face the ghosts that haunt him. Then the last middle grade book I have is Hoodoo by Ronald L. Smith. This book is set in 1930s Alabama and centers around a 12-year-old named Hoodoo Hatcher. He is born into a family with a rich tradition of practicing folk magic, otherwise known as hoodoo. Despite his name, Hoodoo can't even manage to cast a single spell. However, when a mysterious man named the Stranger comes to town, he learns that the Stranger possesses black magic that can put his entire town at risk. And therefore the question is whether Hoodoo will be able to defeat him. Then finally, I have 2 comic books that I would like to share with you. The first one is Anya's Ghost by Vera Broskol. This story is about a Russian-American girl who in a well finds the spirit of a young girl who has been dead for over a century. Embarrassed by her family and self-conscious about her body, Anya doesn't really fit in at school. And so when she befriends this ghost girl, things seem to be taking a turn for the better. Until it doesn't, because what can you expect from being friends with a ghost? I read this about a year ago and remember really enjoying the art style and the story as a whole. Then the last book I have for you is The Witch Boy by Molly Ostertag. This is a series that follows a 13-year-old boy named Asta. In his family, all girls grow up to be witches, whereas all boys grow up to be shapeshifters. Anyone who defies this rule gets exiled, and unfortunately for Asta, he hasn't been able to shift yet. He, however, is incredibly fascinated with witchery, and when a mysterious danger threatens all the other boys, Asta might be able to help with witchcraft. And so Asta will require great courage in order to save his family and also to be himself. I personally have not read this one yet, but I have a couple of friends who did and really enjoyed this one. Well, that was all of the literature that I wanted to share with you today. I do have a couple of non-scary manga recommendations, but I will be doing those in a huge video featuring loads and loads of horror, scary manga. So that one hopefully will be coming up on my channel in a couple of days. Anyway, I hope that you really enjoyed this video and that I was able to pique your interest in some way, shape or form. Anyway, if you enjoy the content that I make on this channel, perhaps consider supporting me on Patreon, or you can also support me by getting me a coffee or just by liking, subscribing and commenting. Also, if you just want to support Fortnight Frights as a whole, I have a page with a donation button as well, and I think that is everything I wanted to let you know. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video.